Tonight, breaking news: the desperate search for the missing after catastrophic and deadly flash flooding in central Texas.
Sunday night, hope fades in flood-ravaged Texas. The rising death toll as the rescue mission slowly turns to recovery.
A tragedy in Texas. A sudden torrent of flood water triggers a deadly disaster.
It was July 4th, 2025, in the Hill Country region of central Texas. Instead of the usual sunshine and 100-degree temperatures for Independence Day festivities, the sky was gray and rain was falling throughout the region. However, this wasn't just any regular rainy day. A nearly stationary system fueled by tropical moisture had positioned itself over the extremely flood-prone regions in central Texas. As the system continued to be fueled by the rich tropical moisture from the East Pacific, feet upon feet of rain pounded the region. In the span of just a few hours, this incredibly rare system dumped nearly 4 months' worth of rain across the region, triggering 6 flash flood emergencies, killing 135 people, and becoming the U.S.'s deadliest inland flooding event in nearly 50 years. Major flash flooding is not a new phenomenon for the parts of the Texas Hill Country. In fact, the entire region is known as Flash Flood Alley. Numerous factors contribute to the increased flash flooding threat in this region. For one, the soil content in this portion of the state has extremely high limestone content, which allows for rainwater to easily run off of the soil instead of soaking in. This effect is somewhat similar to how urban areas are more susceptible to flooding due to concrete not soaking up moisture the same as soil. Another factor that allows this region to be so susceptible to flooding is the steeply sloped surfaces that dominate the region. The steeply sloped nature of the ground throughout the region allows for water to be easily and quickly funneled towards rivers and streams, which overflow easily. The third and final, and potentially most significant reason this region is so susceptible to flooding is the proximity of both the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf. Both of these bodies of water are extremely humid, and westerly or southerly winds can easily funnel this moisture over central Texas. Due to these factors, the Guadalupe River and several surrounding rivers in the region have flooded multiple times in recent decades. This includes flooding in October 1998 that killed 31, flooding in May 2015 on the nearby Blanco River that killed 13, and flooding on June 12th, just 3 weeks before the flood, in nearby San Antonio that killed 13. In addition, Texas has also led the U.S. in flood deaths for the past several decades. From 1959 to 2019, 1,069 people died in flooding statewide during that 60-year period. As a point of reference, Louisiana is second with 693 flood deaths, which is 376 less deaths. The potential for a major flooding event was mentioned in the days leading up to the 4th, but nobody could have anticipated what ended up occurring. On July 2nd, Texas Emergency Management activated state emergency response resources in anticipation of increased threats of flooding in parts of West and Central Texas heading into the holiday weekend. This activation was prompted by the National Weather Service, which had forecasted the potential for heavy rain and flooding for a large portion of Central and West Texas over the holiday weekend. Then, on July 3rd, the National Weather Service issued a flash flood watch for the region. This flash flood watch noted the potential for scattered rainfall totals of 1 to 3 inches, with the potential of isolated areas of nearly 5 to 7 inches. Although these forecasts noted the potential for flooding, they were still estimating far below what actually ended up occurring in the state. To figure out just how these major floods occurred, we have to dive a bit deeper into the meteorological background. On July 3rd, a broad mid-level trough that had contained significant amounts of East Pacific moisture had positioned itself over the southwestern U.S. This Pacific-enhanced trough also had a fairly weak low-level winds of just 20 to 30 knots, which allow for some slow storm motions and possible training to occur with storms. Storm training, or training thunderstorms, is a weather phenomenon where multiple storms develop and move over the same area, often leading to excessive rainfall and flash flooding. This process can occur when storms are stationary and the upper-level winds are parallel to the front, causing them to move over the same spots repetitively. The storms commonly backbuild, producing heavy rain that saturates the ground, leading to major flash flooding. In addition, just 5 days prior to the 4th, Tropical Storm Barry had dissipated in northeastern Mexico, which also likely contributed to the exceptionally moist air mass. Then, on July 3rd at 6:10 p.m., the Weather Prediction Center issued a mesoscale precipitation discussion. The discussion noted that areas of flash flooding would be likely across central Texas overnight, with very heavy rainfall expected. The outlook also noted that hourly rainfall in excess of 2 to 3 inches seemed reasonable given the environment, and localized 6-hour totals over 6 inches would be possible. They also detailed that the potential flooding may have significant impacts throughout the region. As the sun went down on the 3rd, the rain began to form and train over central Texas. Over the next few hours, rain continued to fall throughout the region and showed no signs of stopping. The first flash flood warning was issued at 11:41 p.m. on July 3rd and was for Bandera County. Then, at 1:14 a.m. on July 4th, the first flash flood warning with a considerable tag was issued for parts of Bandera and Kerr counties. This tag automatically triggers cell phone wireless emergency alerts. The first flash flood emergency was issued at 4:03 a.m. on July 4th, urging residents of Hunt and Ingram in Kerr County to seek higher ground now. The flash flood emergency also noted that rainfall rates of 2 to 4 inches per hour would continue to impact the area, which had already seen 4 to 10 inches of rain. By this time, the training effect had already been well established on satellite, with storms continually backbuilding. Further down the Guadalupe River, a flash flood emergency was issued by the National Weather Service for Kerrville and Center Point at 5:34 a.m., again warning for the potential of catastrophic flood damage. It also noted that automated rain gauges indicated a large and deadly flood wave was moving down the Guadalupe River. Another flash flood emergency was issued for Comfort 2 hours later at 10:45 a.m. In total, the National Weather Service issued 22 alerts of escalating severity for the region in and around Kerr County over the course of July 3rd and 4th, according to CBS News. There were also several other Weather Service messages issued for western and central Texas on the 2nd and 3rd concerning the risk of flooding. No alerts were issued, however, by local government officials in Kerr or Bandera counties who were reliant on these National Weather Service alerts. In the early morning hours of July 4th, 6.5 inches of rain fell in just 3 hours, resulting in numerous water-related rescues. In Hunt, where 2 branches of the Guadalupe River meet, the river gauge recorded a 26-foot rise in just 45 minutes before falling before it reached 29 feet. It ultimately crested at 37.5 feet. By 4:05 a.m., the Guadalupe River at Hunt had risen 21.99 feet, rising over 10 feet in just an hour and reaching major flood stage. The river then continued to surge, reaching 37.5 feet and still rising at 5:10 a.m. when the gauge at Hunt stopped updating. This level marked the highest ever recorded at Hunt, surpassing flash flooding that occurred in 1987 by almost a foot. Downstream, the river surge measured 21 feet in 1 hour at Kerrville and nearly 27 feet in 45 minutes at Comfort. The river's rise was so swift that people did not have time to react. The city of Kerrville issued a disaster declaration on July 4th following the floods. In total, 5 to 11 inches of rain fell in some areas that experienced significant flood effects. San Angelo and Tom Green County recorded 15 inches of rainfall on July 4th alone. There, flooding of the Concho River compromised the city's wastewater system, causing 2 discharges, 1.6 million U.S. gallons and 67,000 U.S. gallons into the river. Local officials there estimated that over 12,100 structures were affected by the flooding. Flooding continued on July 5th, with 2 more flash flood emergencies being issued for areas around Lake Travis, north of Austin. Later, a 3rd flash flood emergency was issued for central Coma County. It noted that local law enforcement reported flooding of the Guadalupe River. 20.33 inches of rain fell northwest of Streeter, near Mason. Once the rain finally stopped on the 4th, the rescue efforts began across the region, resulting in at least 237 people being rescued from the floodwaters by the end of the day, including 167 people rescued from trees and roofs via helicopter. Telecommunication outages in the area made it hard to contact many people throughout the region, and the amount of debris and destruction complicated the work of first responders. On July 8th, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department said that more than 440 people had been rescued and at least 120 bodies had been recovered, while authorities had searched 26 miles of river. Over 2,000 volunteers helped out in emergency operations in Kerr County alone. According to officials, the last live rescue was made on July 4th. Multiple groups from at least 12 other U.S. states and agencies, as well as from Mexico, joined the search and rescue. California Governor Gavin Newsom sent urban search and rescue team members to the Texas floods. 22 Arkansas's National Guardsmen, including pilots, crew chiefs, and maintenance personnel, were deployed to assist with transportation of search and rescue personnel during the early morning hours of July 8th. On the same day, Colorado Task Force 1 was activated in response to the floods. The team consisted of 48 members, including 4 canines, spanning 16 different agencies. On July 7th, the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, dispatched 14 swift water rescue personnel to Texas to assist in flood response. On July 9th, NASA deployed 2 aircraft to assist state and local authorities in the recovery operations. The planes were a part of NASA's Disaster Response Coordination System, which was activated to support emergency responses and was working closely with the Texas Division of Emergency Management, FEMA, and 2 charities. These charities were Save the Children and Give Directly. North Dakota's Governor Kelly Armstrong authorized the North Dakota National Guard to send an MQ-9 Reaper drone to help locate survivors. This was sent under the request from the Emergency Management Assistant Compact. Remote controlled from Fargo, North Dakota by the North Dakota Air National Guard's 119th Wing, the MQ-9 Reaper was used to collect aerial surveillance, search for the missing, and assess damage in inaccessible areas. On July 11th, Ohio Task Force 1 was requested to assist with search and rescue operations in Texas after receiving an activation order from FEMA. 3 members, alongside 2 canines, were sent to assist in operation and search for missing people. Dozens of active and former Navy SEALs volunteered to assist in the search and recovery efforts, with more than 30 joining in the operations. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz sent out K-9 units from Minnesota Task Force 1 to aid in search and recovery operations in central Texas. Arizona Task Force 1 deployed a team of 49 to Texas. The team brought vehicles and boats, including boats that can gain access to inaccessible areas. Structural collapse gear, hazardous materials equipment, and communication tools were also deployed. 8 members from the Swiftwater Rescue Team, a part of the Virginia Beach Fire Department, were sent to Central Texas to assist in search and rescue efforts, with the first responders being sent out on July 6th. Over the next few days, numerous other states sent their Task Force 1 units to Texas to assist with recovery efforts. Officials urged untrained civilians to stay away from active search zones because of safety risks and coordination challenges. They also criticized the influx of sightseers and the use of unauthorized drones for complicating rescue operations. On July 7th, reports were made of a private drone illegally flown into temporarily restricted airspace over Caryville, which had crashed into a rescue helicopter. This crash had forced the pilot to make an emergency landing and damaging and rendering unusable a critical piece of emergency response equipment. However, subsequent clarification from the city of Caryville revealed that the drone was actually an authorized search and rescue drone, which had flown too high and collided with the rescue helicopter. Then, on July 13th, search and rescue operations were suspended due to renewed threats of major flash flooding. The vast number of states that had sent rescue teams to aid in recovery efforts shows just how significant of an event the floods were. Unfortunately, the flood became the deadliest inland flood to hit the U.S. in nearly 50 years. At least 135 people have been confirmed dead in the floods, 117 in Kerr County, 9 in Travis County, 5 in Burnett County, 3 in Williamson County, and 1 in Tom Green County. Several of the fatalities in Kerr County were young girls who were staying at Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian summer camp located 6 miles southwest of Hunt. On July 4th, 27 were declared missing from Camp Mystic. The number of girls missing dropped to 10 on July 7th, with a camp counselor still missing as well. Camp Mystic counselor Dick Eastland, who had purchased the camp in 1974, was confirmed to be among those dead. On July 7th, CNN reported that 27 campers and counselors had died in the floods at Camp Mystic, and that 10 girls and a counselor were still missing. By July 9th, 5 girls and 1 counselor remained missing. Other places that were hit hard were the HTR Hill Country Campground and adjacent Blue Oak RV Park in Kerrville and the Casa Bonita community between Hunt and Camp Mystic. On July 14th, the number of people missing was lowered from 161 to 101. This decrease was attributed to victims being recovered, some of the missing victims making contact and found safe, and some missing reports being falsified. In Travis County specifically, the number of missing dropped from 10 to 4 after it was discovered that some people appeared both on the list of missing and people confirmed dead. As of September 24th, the number missing stood at 2. In the direct aftermath of the flood, there was significant controversy surrounding the under-forecasting of the event. Effects of federal government cost-cutting on the National Weather Service were questioned. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said the National Weather Service was well-staffed and did their job to provide warnings to those impacted. However, Texas Division of Emergency Management Chief Nim Kidd criticized the forecast from the National Weather Service, stating that the amount of rain that fell at the specific locations was never in any of the forecast and did not predict the amount of rain that they saw. Trump told reporters that funding cuts had not left key National Weather Service posts vacant and that it had been a 100-year catastrophe. When asked if meteorologists should be rehired, Trump said, "I would think not. This was a thing that happened in seconds. Nobody expected it. Nobody saw it. Very talented people in there, and they didn't see it." It was noted that 5 forecasters came in duty on the night of the floods, which was the usual number when severe weather is expected. The National Weather Service offices noted that in both San Angelo and San Antonio offices, they had adequate number of staff to get out the alerts and warnings to the public. Also in the aftermath, hundreds of companies and organizations sent aid to the region. NBA teams, the Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks, and San Antonio Spurs partnered together to support flood relief efforts by selling t-shirts bearing the slogan, "Texas Strong." On Water Street in Kerrville, a large makeshift memorial was erected on a chain-link fence separating the Guadalupe River from downtown Kerrville. The chain-link fence quickly became filled with photographs of persons who were killed, flowers, and signs. On the evening of July 11th, 300 people showed up at the memorial for a vigil, with speakers including faith leaders and survivors recounting their stories. In the end, the Central Texas floods of July 2025 became one of the most devastating inland floods to ever occur in the United States. An estimated $18 to $22 billion in damages occurred throughout the region, and hundreds of thousands of homes were permanently destroyed. However, in spite of the exceptional devastation, the resilience and collaboration between state officials to aid the victims of the floods remains a bright spot. This video is dedicated to all 135 people who were tragically killed by the devastating floods. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I figured this would probably be the best time for me to make a video on these floods. I haven't seen anybody really make a video about them yet, so I was kind of like, I'm going to go try to make one first. And I was kind of struggling a little bit to figure out a new tornado to do one over. I actually do have my next one picked. And actually, I have the script started a little bit. But anyways, I was just deciding, let's do the floods. I had been wanting to do it for a little while, and I feel like it's finally time that it makes sense to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to try to do some more events like this, hurricanes, floods. Yeah, just blizzards. I mean, who knows? Maybe just some random stuff. We'll try some stuff out. But I appreciate you guys for watching, especially this far. If you made it here, don't forget to like and subscribe. But I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
We got this one tornado right here. directly in front of us.